Inspire you on air, the new beat of the Bay. You are inside of Sip and Chill Saturdays. I am Almighty, and this hour we are stopping the music. In studio, we have with us Judge Karlos Finley. He is a candidate for the mayor of the city of Mobile. This hour, we will be talking to him about issues, concerns, his platform as he seeks the mayoralship of the city of Mobile. Judge Finley, good morning and welcome to Sip and Chill Saturdays. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Happy Saturday to you, sir.
And happy Saturday to you. First of all, we thank you for taking out time of your busy schedule. I know you're running for mayor and you have many other things that occur in your life to sit down and talk with us about your platform, why you're running for mayor, and address some of the issues and concerns that voters have here in the city of Mobile. Before we start, right quick, let listeners know, what is your website?
My website is finleyformayor.com. finleyformayor2021.com. So that's FINLEYFORMAYOR2021.com.
Thank you for spelling that. I was going to ask you to break that down because this day and age of alphanumeric.
I've done this a couple of times.
You've done this a couple of times. All right, I got you. So we started off, welcoming you here to the show. You are Judge Finley, and we had this question posed to us, and maybe just right quick if you can address this. You're a lawyer, you're a judge. Kind of explain that. How does that work?
I'd be glad to. And first, let me just say that I'm really happy and excited to be here. It is a busy schedule, but it's never too busy to stop and speak with our constituents. So to really break down how does one become a lawyer and a judge.
Right.
The city of Mobile, which is where my judgeship exists, has full-time judges and they have part-time judges. So I am a part-time judge with the city of Mobile. So I handle traffic dockets, I handle bond hearings and arraignment hearings. And from time to time, when our full-time judges can't handle their trial dockets, disposition dockets, we kind of shift around and move. But I have a private law firm in which I practice civil law. Then my criminal docket is one that encompasses criminal law.
Gotcha.
So that cuts down on any conflicts that may happen because I don't represent criminal defense individuals.
Correct.
And I do represent, in my private practice, personal injury, products liability, and wrongful death cases.
Okay. We just wanted to clear it up because a lot of people were wondering. And since we're on that topic, some would say, why run for mayor? You are a lawyer. You're a municipal court judge. Why are you seeking to become the mayor of Mobile?
Well, you know what, Al, it's very interesting because, I am one who leans very hard on my faith. As a Christian, we are taught to be Christ-like. And in the season that we're in, Jesus didn't have to come down here and sacrifice himself for our sins. He did it because he loves us. So as a judge and an attorney, I don't have to run for mayor. Thank God I'm blessed and my family's just fine. But this is something that I can do for our citizens. I bring a vision that I have not seen any other candidates and quite frankly any other mayors bring to the table. So the same reason that I chose the career path that I chose, it's service. I am one who comes from a long line of service in this community. My grandfather was a physician. My father was a pharmacist. And those are service types of industries.
Correct.
So they served our community. So that's what I grew up with. And so that's what I know. And I always want to make our city all that it's capable of being. And quite frankly, I don't see that happening.
If elected as mayor, what would be your top 3 priorities upon taking office?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that question because, first and foremost, I've surrounded myself with a top-notch team. 2 co-chairs, field operations, data collections, and most importantly, oftentimes, a communications director. So when we first met, we sat down and we said, what are going to be our platforms as to why we run for this candidacy and this mayoral seat? And we came up with the acronym C. We want everyone to see Mobile the way that we see it.
Okay.
So capital S, capital E, capital E. First, safety. Second, economy. Third, environment. Those are my top 3 focuses in this campaign. Safety relative to cleanliness of our communities.
Okay.
Obviously, the public safety issue that we're currently experiencing within our city with homicides going through the roof, violent crime completely out of control. The economy, whereas there are some aspects of our economy that are doing very well, and there are some people within our city who are doing very well, but not all of our people are doing very well. In fact, some people are not doing very well at all. So we want to equalize that. We want to create opportunities for those who are within our community that would not necessarily get those opportunities because they don't know the people who are creating those opportunities. And then when we talk about our environment, well, we can go back to blighted communities. We can speak to the coal ash issue that's currently going on up at the Berry plant.
Correct.
So, those are the kinds of things that are foundational that all of us will need to survive. And we want to take a real deep dive in those issues so that they're addressed across the board. Because unfortunately, in our city, there are several different cities.
Okay.
There are some people who are doing very, very well, and there are some people who are doing very, very poorly. And there are those who are within the middle. We want to make sure that we address all of those segments. So the people who are doing very well, they're now going to have to compete.
All right.
The people who are doing okay, we're going to create opportunities for them to move about within those circumstances and to share the information as to how they've become doing well with those who are not doing so very well. And those who are not doing very well are going to see a restoration of hope because there will be no limits on what it is that they can achieve and how they can go about achieving it within our community.
We're talking with Judge Karlos Finley. He is a candidate for the mayor of the city of Mobile this hour. We will be speaking with him about issues that you brought to us as listeners and voters in this area. One specific topic, and you just kind of talked about it, safety. The overwhelming question that voters posed to us was the safety and public safety and violence in the city. Just recent, after a maybe 12 or 13 day run here, we've had almost 10, 11 serious shootings here happen in the city. How do you specifically plan to address this major issue of violence and public safety in the city?
Thank you for the question. It's not a situation that we can police ourselves out of. There has to be a restoration of hope in our community. You see, people commit crimes because they don't see any other way oftentimes. And so this ties in oftentimes with our nonprofit organizations that create hope within our communities. When you talk about an after-school program that may be providing an after-school snack for kids so that they're not hungry. Opportunities for them to learn on banks of computers and play some sports. Understand that we are academic situated. Sports are great. I'm a former athlete, but academics is the foundation that we all need to, whether you're an athlete or not.
Right.
You need to understand how to handle your money.
Correct.
Because if you don't, other people will.
We'll take it.
Correct. And so, when we start to properly fund, again, those nonprofits, which we're not doing currently, then young people begin to think, well, maybe somebody does care about me and I've got a shot and, I can work my way through this system, and this guy right here who I see serves on the board of this organization is doing very well. One day I could maybe be him. But when they don't have those opportunities, and I would submit to you, the current administration came into office 7 years ago, and we have balanced budgets in the city of Mobile now, but our nonprofits are suffering. So children who were 13 7 years ago are now 20.
That's right.
And so when that after-school program was cut because they didn't have the city funding anymore, when they couldn't get that snack because they didn't have city funding anymore, those children remember that. And they say, I used to go to Boys and Girls Club. I used to go to Dearborn Y. I used to go to Dumas Wesley, and they would have this for us. But then they cut all of those things out. So now, as a grown person, they're saying, you know what? Nobody cares about me. I got to get mine. However I need to get it, that's how I'm going to get it, because no one cares about me. We've got to reinstitute programs to show all segments of our community that we care and that the city is here for you. You know, we've got a rainy day fund in the city of Mobile. I would submit that there are some places in our city, there's a thunderstorm going on right now. And we need to utilize some of those funds so that we can stop the rain or at least patch the holes in the roof.
Okay. We're speaking with Judge Karlos Finley. He is a candidate for the city of Mobile. We have more questions to pose to him during this hour. On a lighter note, so tell me this. It's Saturday morning in the Finley home. Are we eating fish and grits or salmon croquettes and rice?
Fish and grits.
Fish and grits guy? I got you. One other question. You may have come across this as you're out, as I don't know how much pressing of the flesh you're doing with the COVID going on. Alabama or Auburn fan? Got to ask you that one.
You know, I'm a unique individual.
Okay.
Because I'm with Alabama and I'm with Auburn as long as they're not playing Alabama.
Oh, okay. Politically correct answer?
Well, no, that's just the way that I grew
just
up.
how you go.
No, and I'm even more of a hybrid because for 9 years I lived in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So
Really
I'm a
now?
Wolverines fan.
Really? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So
Unless they're playing Alabama.
Unless they're playing Alabama. I got you. All right, stick here. We're going to come back and talk more with Judge Karlos Finley. You're inside of Sip and Chill Saturdays. Nspire You on Air, the new beat of the Bay. Nspire You on Air, the new beat of the Bay. You're inside Sip and Chill Saturdays. Almighty is sitting here with Judge Karlos Finley. He's a candidate for the mayor of the city of Mobile. Judge Finley, thank you once again for joining us this morning.
My pleasure. Great to be here.
We're going to get back into some of the issues that are facing voters today. You talked about one, and you kind of hit on it just slightly about economics. By the numbers, Mobile is a majority black city, but there still seems to be an uneasiness about living here. Both sides of your family are regarded as legacy families in the black community. Some say old Mobile money still runs the city. Some say the racial lines are still divided. How will you work to address those disparities and the wealth gap that exists between blacks and whites?
Excellent question. Thank you very much. You know, one could not be honest and say that those things did not exist. Mm-hmm. I don't care if you require a person to put race down on a piece of paper or not.
Right.
That doesn't matter. And quite frankly, and many times it's a hindrance because now you've hindered our ability to collect data on who's getting opportunities. But let me say that, you know, I'm very proud of what my family has done here in this city. All came from very humble beginnings. My grandfather was born in a log cabin in Tennessee. My father grew up in the Bottom. For those who don't know where the Bottom is, it's the north side of MLK. It used to be Davis Avenue.
Right.
It got its name because you don't get any lower on the socioeconomic ladder. But my father always taught me that the only limitations that you have are the ones that you place upon yourself. So let's talk about the legacy of our city, 318 years old. We have been a city that's been multicultural, multiracial for all of those years, since its inception. But there's been certain rules that one has had to adhere to in order to operate within the confines of our city. Those rules have to go. There is no more time for that, because it goes back to the violent crime.
Correct.
Because people become frustrated because they see that there are opportunities, but they don't have access to them. So oftentimes in the business community, it's more of who you know as opposed to what you know. The city of Mobile has many contracts that it issues on bond issues, contractual issues for building, opportunities, cleaning up,
right,
all those kinds of things. But they're not always noticed to the general public. So we want everyone to be invited to the bid opening as opposed to the grand opening.
Okay.
Those are things that will shrink the wealth gap. I can't tell you how many Mobilians that I know who have left here and become great in other areas because they could not flex their abilities here in the city. I mean, look, just off the top of my head, I can think of Major General J. Gary Cooper, Alexis Herman, former Secretary of Labor, Sandy Bishop, who's a congressman in Georgia, long-term congressman. His father was Mr. S.D. Bishop.
That's
the
right.
school's named after. So those are Mobilians. And I've got several within my family as well. I have, family members who are doctors, pharmacists, own businesses, but they had to leave here in order to do it. We want to create those opportunities here. We feel that giving notice of those opportunities far and wide is an avenue to do such. And for those companies who don't necessarily have the qualifications to apply for those bids, well, look, let's create an apparatus for them to understand how to do that. Let's not just say, well, it's, that's their business. Their business. They got to figure it out. No, they don't have to figure it out. When you know that there's a system that has intentionally disadvantaged a group of people, it is the job of government to create systems that will advantage people to bring those playing fields to level.
Okay.
And so we're going to be looking at doing those kinds of things. It's not very complicated. It's just a matter of communicating the opportunities when they come about.
Now, you talked about many of those who have left Mobile and went on to other places. You kind of hinted about it. Particularly, some choose to go somewhere else rather than take a risk here. How do you address those issues? The city does recruit business and bring certain industry here, but a lot of those don't affect, like, if you want to call it the trickle down to the mom and pops, the regional folks. How do you try to keep those people here? Just the regular old, Jimmy Joe's and Sally Sue's.
Well, when we talk about regular Jimmy Joe's and Sally Sue's, we're talking about jobs. There are jobs available, but I want to take it a step higher.
Okay.
I want to talk about business ownership. I want to talk about entrepreneurship because, when you're not the lead dog, the view stays the same. And I want to tap into the fact that there are many, especially younger people, who want to
Correct.
They want to move into a position where one day they're going to own their own business. There's nothing wrong with starting at the bottom. Believe me, I did it. I started as a cleaner at Scott Paper Company, blowing dust 8 hours a day.
I got you.
Okay?
Gotcha.
And I'm a veteran. So I've started from the low rung in boot camp. You get
correct.
no lower than that. But you want to know that there's a possibility at the end of the day that you can be the lead dog, that you can create something all your own and create opportunities for others. So my focus is going to be on creating the opportunities for ownership and entrepreneurship within that's how you shrink the wealth gap. And that's the question that we have before us today. How do you shrink the wealth gap? By creating opportunities for ownership. So we've got large industries within our community.
Yes. Huge.
Alstom, Airbus. Well, all of those large communities get supplies and parts from tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 manufacturers. They're smaller manufacturers.
Right.
They may only manufacture a nut and a bolt, but they may manufacture millions of them. So my brother owned a company in Mississippi that was a supplier to Ford, GM, Chrysler, BMW, Mercedes, all of those companies. All he created was brush assembly plates and generators for automobiles. So in 2005, a Jaguar S-Type, every one of them made had his brush plate assembly on it.
Okay.
And there were millions of those vehicles. Many BMWs had his windshield wiper motor on them. They bought those from him. There are opportunities for entrepreneurs to create those kinds of manufacturing companies here within the city of Mobile. You may not be Airbus,
Right.
but your nut and bolt may be on every Airbus jet that's produced here in Mobile. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at to enhance those areas. Now, those areas also have to have brick and mortar buildings.
That is true.
Okay.
That's true.
So we've got open fields all over the north side of our city that are just gaps where nothing's happening. And oftentimes they're overgrown. They create issues with vermin. They create opportunities for criminal activity.
That's correct.
So if we put things in those places that are productive, now you're creating an opportunity for those Sally Sue's and Jimmy John's to have jobs at these facilities. That's how a community works. That's how an economic system works. It's not just about, we got a job for you, go to Bishop State, they'll train you, and you'll be fine. And if you can't do that, then you don't want help. No.
Right.
We have to create those. Look, I started at Bishop State. It's a great institution. And as they say, it is a great place to start.
Great place to start.
Okay?
That's right.
I started there while working in a paper mill. My example of life is something that I want to share with others. 10 years for undergrad for this one.
Okay.
10 years because I worked shift work throughout the entire thing. So I couldn't go to school as a traditional student. In fact, I've never been a traditional student. Even in law school, I worked 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and I went to school 5:30 to 8:30, Monday through Thursday, and studied on the weekends. And yes, I passed the bar on the first try, and I'm proud of that, but it's an example to let other people know, if I can do it, this kid who grew up in Mobile, went to Tolmanville, LaFleur High School, just like you're doing, then you're capable of it as well.
So you could take the non-traditional route just as you did.
There are many, many pathways to what you consider to be success.
I got you. We're talking with Judge Karlos Finley. He's a candidate for the mayor of the city of Mobile. Judge Finley, to the untrained eye, you may be viewed as a political newcomer, but that's not the case at all. A few years back, you made an unsuccessful run for Congress against former Representative Bradley Byrne. What lessons learned from that race have prepared you for this mayoral run?
Well, let me just correct you on that. I never ran against Bradley Byrne.
Okay.
In 2013, I ran for Alabama State House for an open seat that was created by the unfortunate passing of Dr. Yvonne Kennedy. There were 7 people in that race. I made it into the runoff with current Alabama State Representative Adeline Clark. She and I had made the runoff. I won at the polls. She came back and got me on absentee ballots.
Gotcha.
That was a lesson learned.
That was a lesson learned.
Okay. Then in 2018, I ran for circuit judge for Mobile County. That's a county-wide race. That's not just the city of Mobile.
Okay.
So you're talking about from Dauphin Island to Central, from the river to Grand Bay or the Mississippi line.
Right.
We acquired 62,500 approximate votes across Mobile County. We came up short at 48%. But as an African-American Democrat, that was a victory, even though we did not win the race. I always point out, though, the experience that I learned from that race was that we've got to really motivate the people in our urban communities to come out and vote.
Okay.
Because here's the situation. Figure Center, Bishop State, Rock of Faith, Revelation, Sunrise District, they came out from 30 to 35% turnout. The overall turnout was 45%. There are registered voters in our communities who are not being motivated to come to the polls. The power is there. Also, I must say that out of that 62.5 thousand votes that I received, 35,000 of them came from the city of Mobile. The last mayoral race was won by 28,000 votes.
That's correct.
I need to get those 35,000 back to the polls. Vote for Karlos Finley, and we'll win this thing.
Before we go to this next break, repeat your website again for the listeners who may have just joined us.
FinleyForMayor2021.com. That's FinleyForMayor2021.com.
So tell me this, what's your fondest Mardi Gras moment?
That's a loaded question, man. That's like a list as long as my arm. Are you kidding me? The fondest?
Your fondest Mardi Gras moment.
I tell you what, there's one that always sticks out. I can't remember the year, but when the parade used to come down the avenue on Tuesday, they turned at Lexington Avenue off of the avenue.
That's correct.
My uncle's drugstore was at Davis Avenue and Lexington Avenue.
That is true.
So we had a big party every year.
Your spot was already set.
Correct. But one year I was standing, there used to be a mailbox there. I was standing on top of the mailbox and I was just having an amazing time, and everybody was throwing, I was being bombarded, but I could see that all of the younger children in my family and the kids from across the were getting the stuff that people were throwing at me. And so that's probably one of my fondest memories.
Judge Finley, that is called the trickle-down effect.
There you go. It does work sometimes, doesn't it?
And I have told my children, they are 9 now, I say, if you just wait, because one person, you can't catch it. It's going to bounce off your shoulder. You're going to misgrab. Oh, I thought I had it. And it's going to drop. You just be ready to scoop it up. So that was a lesson learned for you.
You sound like a Mardi Gras veteran, my friend.
Well, I've done a little Mardi Gras as well. We're speaking with Judge Karlos Finley. He's a candidate for the mayor of Mobile, for City of Mobile, and we'll be back with him and learn more and talk more during this hour of Sip and Chill Saturdays. We appreciate you joining us right here with Inspire You on Air. It's the new beat of the Bay. Inspire You on Air, the new beat of the Bay. You are inside of Sip and Chill Saturdays, and we have joined us this hour Judge Karlos Finley, candidate for the mayor of the City of Mobile. Judge Finley, we do appreciate you stopping by.
It is my pleasure
this morning
to have the opportunity.
On the weekends, are you done in deck shoes and a polo, or are you a flip-flops and T-shirt kind of guy?
Flip-flops and T-shirt.
Flip-flops and T-shirt?
Yeah. Most of the time. I do have the deck shoes and polos in the arsenal, but for the most time, flip-flops and T-shirts.
Flip-flops and T-shirts. Once again, give your website, and also while you're doing that, let listeners know if they like to donate to your campaign. How can they do that?
Thank you very much. So the website again is finleyformayor2021.com. That's FINLEYFORMAYOR2021.com. And there are a myriad of ways that you can donate to our campaign, both on that website. We also have Cash App, which is the $, of course, FINLEYFORMAYOR 2021. We also have a Facebook page, an Instagram page, as well as a Twitter page that you can follow along and find out what we're doing. Every Friday, we have Finley Fridays, which is a Facebook Live event where if you've got questions that you want to direct straight to me, that's your opportunity to do so. Unscripted, I'm off the cuff, I'm just telling you how it is as I see it, and I love doing those because it's direct interaction with our community. But I like to talk about fundraising because, most candidates want to get to those big donors that they can drop, 20,000.
Gotcha.
And look, these are realistic numbers. 20,000, 10,000, 35,000 at a shot. If we do that, then when we're elected, there's going to be people who are going to say, hey, looking for a return on my investment. We would prefer to have 15,000 $25 donations. That equals $375,000. Or 7,500 $50 donations. You get the same number, 375,000. Now we're able to run a quality campaign, and we're able to do what we're promising to do within this campaign without looking at people for a return on their investment, except the masses. And that's why we're doing this, to serve the masses, not the few. That is a huge issue that we have in government today, and the money in these campaigns are a huge issue as well. And make no mistake, it takes money to run these campaigns. When you look at those yard signs, every time you look at a yard sign, look at $5. Okay? And so those are things that we want to address. Every time you look at one of those big signs, 8x4, double-sided, look at $65. Okay? And that's not including the 2x4s that it takes to hold it up. Okay? So we need campaign funds, and we want the masses
All right.
to donate. Look, we talked about 35,000 votes that we're looking at to win this thing, hands down, in the previous segment. If 35,000 people gave $25, that's $875,000. I can whoop anybody with that kind of money.
Right. You're talking about the masses. A couple quick issues here. We're not downplaying them by any means, but they're important. But people ask us to ask. Some view it as a state legislative issue. Voters want to know, what's your stance on the legalization of medicinal marijuana? Also, decriminalization of marijuana. How do you stand on those two?
Well, as a judge, I have a very unique opportunity to see how those things impact our criminal justice system right now. And you wouldn't believe the amount of money it takes to prosecute one of those cases. And they are many. So my position in that there are only 6 states in the United States that have not decriminalized or utilized marijuana in some way, form, or fashion.
Right.
Plain and simple, we need to decriminalize it. Period. End of story. Many people may say, well, this person has a marijuana charge, but what about these paraphernalia charges? Well, in the legal system, oftentimes, because if you are convicted of possession of marijuana, the first time it's a misdemeanor. The second charge is automatically a felony. I don't care if you have a stem and a seed.
Doesn't make a difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
Wow.
It's automatically a felony. So oftentimes, many defense attorneys will request that charge be reduced to a paraphernalia charge so that it doesn't have to go into being a felony.
Gotcha.
And most prosecutors and judges will grant that request because we understand and realize we can't put everybody in jail for a stem and a seed.
Right.
It ends up costing you and me more money to house those people and to feed them. So it's really, at this point, ridiculous to have those kinds of laws on the books. It is a state legislative issue, but it's up to us local mayors, council persons, commissioners to work with our legislators and to give them this kind of information so that they will see. There are very few lawyers in the Alabama State House anymore. Many of our representatives and senators don't have law degrees. There used to be a time where most of them did. That's not the case anymore. So we, as part of the legal community, as local leadership, we need to inform them and work with them in order to get these laws passed so that we don't have these bottlenecks, so that we're not filling up our jails and prisons with people who, in my opinion, quite frankly, are dealing with things that can oftentimes be far less impactful than alcohol.
You just hit on the term bottleneck, and it's kind of funny that the I-10 River Bridge, back in the news once again, it's now proposed from several local leaders as a bridge only for large trucks that will be tolled. Now, this project has federal and state money involved, but it affects us right here locally in our city with the traffic and the overflow. What are your thoughts on this, the latest proposal?
Well, as a downtown dweller, first and foremost, who oftentimes has to get off on that downtown exit coming in from the western sections of town, and I'm not even going to think about what it'd be like coming from across the bay. But I live in downtown, and it is impactful every Friday because Government Street is backed up sometimes to Ann.
Right.
The expressway is backed up to Dolphin Island Parkway. We've got to find a solution for this. I am for the bridge, but we cannot have tolls for individuals who are looking to cross it. I'm certainly willing to look at the effect of the tolls on the commercial vehicles.
Right.
I see that as something that could be fair and could be doable, but I'm not going to sign off on anything just yet. You know what I do. I've got to see the language.
You research. I got you. That's right.
That we're looking at and how it's going to impact us. Because listen, I-10 goes from Los Angeles, California to Jacksonville, Florida.
That is true.
So that's across the entire state. And 65 dumps in Mobile from Chicago. So we are at a major intersection within our in our country that also provides a lot of opportunities, because what I'd like to see is a lot of those folks getting off of that highway and coming in downtown and hanging out for a little while.
Speaking of that, another legislative issue that is kind of been talked about for years, lottery gambling in the state. What's your stance on that?
We should do it.
We should do it.
I mean, look, if you go to the casinos in Mississippi, you see a lot of Alabama tags over
Yes,
there.
you do.
Okay? If you go to Florida, when the lotto hits, those multi-millions,
the numbers go
you see
right.
a whole
Right.
bunch of Alabama tags over there. Georgia, Tennessee, same thing. This makes no sense for us to continue to support these other states around us. They've got beautiful roads. They've got
Right, while the
wonderful
revenue's
school
leaving.
systems.
Right.
And they're doing that oftentimes off of Alabama dollars.
In 2007, Mobile annexed Mobile Terrace and the retail-heavy areas of Schillinger near airport. Let's fast forward to 2019. Annexation resurfaces again, with many feeling that the economics of annexation is kind of being hidden by a sort of a gerrymander, seeing that the proposed area has 13,000 citizens on the lower Schillinger's corridor, but they're majority white residents. What's your stance, or how would you handle annexation for, say, these voters who do want to come into City of Mobile if elected?
Well, let's take a holistic approach on this, okay? Because number one, the dollars and cents have to measure out. We can't look at these proposed numbers or perceived numbers. We have to have actual figures. I've not seen anyone to present those as of yet. Are we going to be taking in enough to take care of those people?
Gotcha.
And their needs? But from a practical sense, if you own a home and the bathroom in the home and the kitchen are falling in, do you build a new room onto that home, or do you fix the bathroom and the kitchen first? Mobile has areas where our kitchens and our bathrooms are falling in. So before I attempt to build an addition onto my house, I'm going to take care of the bathroom and the kitchen first. We started talking about this. Well, we weren't a we at that point. It was an I.
Okay.
Last year, when they started talking about annexation, I put an article in a local newspaper to stand against that annexation for the reason that I just pointed out, but also because we have to understand that when urban renewal came through the city of Mobile in the 50s and 60s and early 70s, the monies were supposed to be reinvested in the areas that they tore the buildings down in. But we built another section of the city with those funds. So the infrastructure that you see in West Mobile is because of the federal funds that came to the city in light of urban renewal that knocked down all of the businesses on Martin Luther King Avenue. Washington Avenue. Many people don't realize Washington Avenue downtown used to be a commercial corridor. Now, that was before my days, but I'm the president of the Dora Franklin Finley African American Heritage Trail. It's my job to know the history.
Correct.
So he or she who does not know their history may be doomed to repeat it. So I encourage everyone to look at the things that our city has gone through so that we know a pathway that's successful and, most importantly, equitable going forward. So to answer that question, I'd be glad to take in more citizenry in other areas when we can afford it. But here's what I've got to say to those folk who want to be a part of the city of Mobile, who live in the county. The city's open. You can move back in because many of them left in the 70s and 80s and said, you know what? I'm going to move out to the county. Okay, well, that was your choice. And I'm not. But now don't ask me to move the lines out when you left the city. Come on back in.
We're speaking with Judge Karlos Finley. He's a candidate for the mayor of the city of Mobile. You just talked about blight, kind of addressing that inside the annexation issue. That was a question we had, but let's talk more about something you mentioned earlier. And when you said blight and you talked about how the funds and the revenues and dividends from an area where it should have been used for urban renewal went to the west side, how would you bolster small and minority business development in the city? How do you tackle that? Because you touched on it earlier about so many government contracts or city contracts should go to certain type businesses. How do you address that?
Well, first of all, we need business training, because just because you have a great idea and you open a business doesn't mean that you know how to operate a business and to ascertain the needed contracts, licenses, and things of that nature. Now, we have some opportunities within the city of Mobile, as well as the University of South Alabama, to teach people how to do those things. Small Business Association does those things, but we've got to make sure that people know about them. We're not promoting that information. So we've got to promote that information. Look, City of Mobile promotes a lot of things. We would promote all kinds of fun things that we do.
Right.
And come on down and participate in that. Promote the business things. Promote those things that are going to enhance people's businesses. You know, I wrote an article for the Mobile Chamber about 10 years ago, because here's the one thing they don't teach you in law school: how to run a law office.
Look at there.
Okay? They don't.
Okay.
They teach you the law.
Right.
They don't teach you the business side.
Business side.
So I'm fortunate in that my undergrad degree is in business management. That's what my major is.
Okay.
So I was fortunate in knowing how to open a business, to run a business, to get the licenses that I need, to pay the fees that I need to pay. But most business operators and entrepreneurs don't know that. We've got to educate our business, because it will then open up greater opportunities for them. Oftentimes, you know, you'll get mom and pop store, they open it up, they go, okay, this is great, we're doing this, we're doing that. But we don't want to get too big, because then we'll have to pay those fees and those taxes and all those things. Well, they're limiting themselves right there. We've got to get past the stigma of not wanting to be too big. You know, Walmart started with Sam Walton in Arkansas.
That's true.
Okay, and now they're Sam's and they're everything else, and they're all over the world. We've got to release the fear of success within our community. And there are offices within our city right now that speak to that, but they're not promoted. They are not promoted in the fashion that they should be.
Okay.
They're not sent to the communities that they should be sent to.
Judge Finley, before we wrap it up, one last question here, and this one, if I'm not going to say it's overlooked, but probably due to COVID contributing to Mardi Gras being canceled this year. We also know the Senior Bowl moved to Hancock Whitney Stadium. The Bay Bears have left. How, or what are your ideas regarding the city properties? Mobile Civic Center, Ladd Stadium, the Hank. These are city properties, and right now they're maybe not being utilized, as one may say, in their best capacity.
Well, let me say first and foremost, we've got to get a professional baseball team back to the Hank, or else it reverts back to the original owners. That's in the contract. So we must do that. We must maintain the Civic Center as well as Ladd Stadium, because those are iconic buildings within our city. There are many things that we can do outside of football at Ladd. I remember going to concerts there when I wore a younger man's clothes. But here's something, you know, I talk about vision all the time and the need for it. If we took out the first 10 rows of seats in Ladd Stadium, that would give us more real estate to put a track around it. Now you're talking track and field. Now you're talking about bringing other things there. Because, hey, look, I go to football games all the time at Ladd. Very few times are those top seats taken. So there's capacity there, okay? But we got to look at doing things like that. We've got to diversify our attractions. And I want to say this. You know, a year ago, you didn't hear talk about blight. You didn't hear talk about tires around the city everywhere. You didn't hear talk about creating a wealth improvement for entrepreneurs. Our campaign's making a difference already. When we announced, we talked about going after blighted properties and cleaning up this city. In fact, I took the reporters that came on a tour after the announcement of St. Stephen's Road, and many of them were appalled. Go to St. Stephen's Road today. It's not nearly where we should be, but it's a lot cleaner now than it was last fall.
Okay.
We talk about tires. The last 2 city council meetings. 2 weeks ago, they talked about trash and picking it up. Last week, they talked about tires and cleaning them up. We're already making a difference, and we're not even the mayor yet.
Okay.
Wait until we're the mayor. You're going to see a new city of Mobile. You're going to see things that you never thought about before. And most of all, you're going to hear open ears to listen to what it is that you want for your city.
Judge Finley, we do appreciate your time this morning for joining us inside of Sip and Chill. Before we go, we'll ask you one last question. What does Mobile mean to you?
Love-hate relationship. I love this city. Bay water and creek water runs through my veins. Mm-hmm. But I hate the way that it has limited the possibilities and opportunities for many people within our city. I love this place. I've lived away from it and couldn't stop thinking about getting back to it.
I hear that, yeah. I hear that a lot.
And now that I'm here, and I've been here, it is very irritating to see the successes that some have within our city, generational successes.
Correct.
And to see the flip side of that with no hope at all. That must end, and it must end now.
One last time, give your website so the listeners can stop by and check it out.
By all means, FinleyForMayor2021.com. That's FinleyForMayor2021.com. And every page on our website has a donate button.
All right. So you told me earlier you're a fish and grits guy. Do you like gumbo?
Yes, there's an article in Southern Living of my sister's Dora's gumbo recipe.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, if you like some gumbo, it's headed your way now. DJ Luke with Seafood Gumbo. Get ready from 12 to 6. Judge Finley, thank you for stopping by. We do appreciate it. That's going to wrap it up for Sip and Chill Saturdays. DJ Luke's headed your way. Let's enjoy some of this gumbo. Inspire you on air. It's the new beat of the Bay.